every time that you or I talk about socialism in Venezuela, you get all these comments from the Socialist Party actually trolls me on Twitter, and every time
Really?
I post something, they're like, "That's not socialism," and they have all these all these alternative words. They talk about oligarchy and state capitalism, and all sorts of things. And certainly Latin America has a history of I guess I would call it crony capitalism, but you could call it oligarch capitalism or whatever that is. It's hardly free market, and that's why there's all sorts of problems that led up to opportunists like Chavez. But there is sort of a framework that comes from Hayek and Friedman, and I would add a third economist, James Buchanan, who talked about the self-interest of people in power and how that can corrupt the outcomes when you try to do things through government. And I don't feel like that's right or left. I don't feel like we should be sort of making that a partisan issue, but there are fundamental problems whenever it is that you try to centralize so much power in a country. And I feel like Venezuela is sort of like the poster child for doing everything wrong, because it's not just that the people in charge don't know what to do. It's that they're corruptible, and maybe they got into power by being corrupt, but inevitably all those resources are diverted towards Swiss bank accounts and all sorts of things. So how do we connect? I mean, you spend a lot of time on TV now talking about your personal experience, but how do we connect with young people that are flirting with this idea of democratic socialism? Because Hugo Chavez is a democratic socialist, or at least he started off that way.
They always start off that way.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly in Venezuela, we have a regime with people who are evil, who don't care about killing people, who want to stay in power.
Yeah.
But I think that that's just the ultimate result of those policies initially. I don't think that many socialists or any socialist starts in power by thinking that they're going to start killing people. They think that they're going to stay popular forever because their programs are good in their mind. Mm-hmm. And I have no doubt that Chavez thought that his programs were good. Many of actually the regime members were trained in Cuba, and they were taught about communism, complete Marxist. So I think that they might have their own personal stories that forced him to think that way. Chavez came from a family where he had his own personal problems and struggles that were not fair for him, and that happens with many dictators. And they channeled that resentment into these policies. Now, I think that the way to try to persuade people in this country that those policies are wrong are by talking about the policies and not necessarily about the word. We use a lot the word socialism, and for everybody that word has a different meaning.
Yeah.
And I think that you can see that in polls. If you ask people about the Green New Deal, they agree with the Green New Deal, but then if you ask about the specific policies in the Green New Deal, they're all very unpopular. And I think that that's where we need to focus the conversation, and that's where we see the people who propose those policies, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She just says the Green New Deal. She's not even talking about the underlying policies anymore, because the word is popular. We have to debunk that word and not use it anymore. We have to just say, price controls are bad. Free jobs for everybody is wrong. People need to earn their way. The government that's not the job of the government. And these policies lead to poverty, and we don't want poverty, we want prosperity for everybody.